is this just fantasy? Indeed so. This is foundational stuff. This is Tolkien's World, Paintings of Middle-earth. So I've had this book since I was a kid, since I first discovered Tolkien's work and became obsessed with it, like many people. And this is a 2-book set, or at least I have 2 books that are related, and one's called Tolkien's World, Paintings of Middle-earth, and the other is called Realms of Tolkien, Images of Middle-earth. And I think the key difference here is this is all paintings, and this is paintings and drawings and other stuff, I guess. Or I imagine that they're qualifying like drawings as not paintings. I don't know. We'll cover this another day. So this is the format that this book takes. We have the location or what's depicted, the artist, a passage from the chosen book, and the artwork on the adjoining page. And it's nicely organized by book. So this starts with The Hobbit, goes through each Lord of the Rings book sequentially, and then goes into the various appendices and things like the Silmarillion and the unfinished tales and such and such. So we're just going to go through it. We're going to see this guy's name a whole lot. There's a lot of Ted Naismith in here. A masterful painter. And here we have a view of Rivendell. And like most works in here, it is incredible and what feels like an authentic vision for this place that doesn't exist. It's a pretty nice reproduction of the artwork, although, I'm zooming in here for you, but there's a lot of paper here, and frankly, part of me wants to just flip it this way, because most of these paintings are probably going to be oriented horizontally, or many of them at least, and this would have allowed them to reproduce it just a little bit bigger. And I wouldn't have minded flipping the book to view it. And with Ted Naismith, I will just say he has a strong attention to realism and detail. This landscape looks like it's a real place, or could be a real place, yet it isn't. That's a masterful skill. John Howe is another name that you're going to see a lot in this book, and probably on this channel, because he is a very prolific illustrator, not just of Tolkien's works, but of fantasy artwork in general. And John Howe, along with Alan Lee, was brought on to the Lord of the Rings films to do production design or concept art or what have you. And it's actually one of John Howe's paintings that gave the definitive look of Gandalf that they ended up going with. I'm not sure if it's in this collection or if it's in the other one, but it is in one of them, is his famous painting of Gandalf. But here we have the Great Goblin, who looks pretty immense, pretty unpleasant, as he should. Yeah, there's some element of, you could say, cartooning happening here. It's still fairly naturalistic. There's some good textures and shine on things, but these aren't trying to be human proportions. These are goblins after all. And even there's probably some modeling involved, but it is all still exaggerated, and well exaggerated, I would say. And of course we have one of our elvish blades that glows when goblins are nearby, and just a nice touch, a nice glow on it too. Here we have Gollum by Inger Edelfelt. This is another name. There's very few one-offs in this book. I'll just say that rather than repeating myself, that you're going to see this name more and more. So I always find it interesting, especially because the look of Gollum is etched into a lot of people's brains now, even people who haven't read the books, because of the work on the films. Before Andy Serkis's Gollum existed, there were a plethora of them, and this one's particularly ghoulish, which I rather enjoy. I even like the shape of this image. I'm guessing it's kind of like a book plate, or possibly even maybe used as cover art or interior art for like a nice edition of The Hobbit. Clutching his fish here. Also, slightly webbed toes, which is an interesting feature. There's his boat. He has all of his features, and it's unmistakably Gollum. When you do realism in art, and you give someone specific features, it becomes a person. When you use simplified characters and design, it's a little more open for people to see whatever they want to see into it. Another page, another Gollum, this one by Michael Haig. And we have our Riddles in the Dark. And another Gollum. And I like, this one's more bug-eyed, and he's got kind of a tunic going on here. Lovely painting here, though. Really nice, I'm guessing, like maybe watercolor? And a very brightly colored look for our Bilbo here. And it's interesting because sometimes when Bilbo is depicted in some of these older illustrations, he can look like an old man, or like someone who's in his, let's say, in his mid-50s, but like a 1960s or 70s mid-50s, and not necessarily like a modern day mid-50s, because things have changed. Or sometimes the hobbits just generally look like children. And here he's kind of childlike, I would say. But not just a child, not just a baby, and not a strange small old man. So it's an interesting balance that they got to strike. Another Michael Haig here. Rescued by the Eagles. We have some of our dwarves down here. That's another thing, is making those dwarves distinct. I know that Tolkien gave each one, like, oh, these ones wore red hoods. These ones were blue. These ones wore yellow. Whatever. That's not much to go on. It's tough when you have 14, or you have so many characters you need to design, that you could easily just draw exactly the same, just change the color of their hood. But whenever there's an attempt to change it up, I'm always going to appreciate it. A really cool looking Gandalf here. I love, he has lightning emitting from his staff here, which, that's a cool effect. Not upset about it. I also love how tall his hat is. This is very fanciful, and also just beautiful rendition of the stars up there. The fire is not quite as prominent as you would expect in an image, especially because that's what's necessary for having the eagles rescue them. Also, those eagles aren't particularly big, and yet they're able to lift up our man Gandalf. This is another, so yeah, we have Michael Haig again, but here the eagles are gigantic, so who knows? Or maybe it's just because this is the Hobbit, and these are the dwarves back here, and they are smaller, but very pretty rendition. Not much else to say. It's a very lovely rendition of their escape. Here they are, prisoner of the elves. So I'm guessing Michael Haig must have illustrated a version of The Hobbit, which is why there are so many illustrations that he did of it, which I will say, we've already passed the part in the book where they had met Beorn, the bear man, and there's no illustrations of that, which is odd. But oh well. But here we have, they're in the court of the elves, and there's not much of an attempt here to make the elves distinct. And one of the elves' distinct features are their ears, right? Their pointy ears. Do you see a single ear in this picture? Because I don't. Yeah, I can't say. Yeah, I mean, here, this is apparently Thorin. And I'm guessing that's like Thranduil, the king of the elves of Mirkwood. He's got kind of a crown there. It's kind of neat. I mean, it's a beautiful little like medieval scene, but I'm not reading these as elves necessarily. These are just a bunch of dudes. Lovely long hair though on all of them. Now here's something wonderful from Carol Emery Phoenix. Smog. I mean, who doesn't want to draw a dragon sitting over its hoard of gold with the disembodied presence of Bilbo glowing here? I really love that. I love all of this. It seems very antiquated. The stylization of the painting itself and the figures and everything. And I am, yeah, loving these tufts of smoke back here and the smoothness of the dragon. It's an interesting rendition. It's not very typical of a Western dragon, as they call it, at least in the face here. It seems very Eastern influenced. But I think it's wonderful. And of course, yeah, this dragon is very much a subject that many people love drawing. But again, just looking at the size of this page, I would love to have seen it printed up this way. Just to get it a little bigger, get some more detail. Here we go, Michael Haig again, his attempt at drawing our friend Smog. Here he's got big ears. That's an interesting choice. He's got horns and spikes coming off his face. He has these black leathery wings, a little bit of a sparkle to his body. It's interesting because what you see mostly in here is steam, water, rocks, maybe some castle walls here, ruins, I guess the interior of a cave too. And then Smog's right here, and he's the subject, but the least of this image. It's almost like he didn't want to draw too much of him. And anatomy-wise, I'm not sure what's going on with some of these things, like some of his arms and stuff. But it's a fantastical creature. It can kind of work any way the artist wants, but it doesn't look particularly naturalistic as far as dragons go. It seems very assembled from just various elements. But still, he looks mean as hell. And another Michael Haig illustration. Here we have the Black Arrow from Bard the Bowman. He's about to kill Smog. And this is Lake Town burning. I mean, it's a great image. I love his posture here. Him getting ready to draw the bow. I love that he's not drawn it yet. He's getting ready. It shows, I think it's greater tension, greater narrative if that he hasn't done it yet. And we are seeing this thing bearing down on him. And you kind of want to tell him, like, hurry up. He's right there. But then also he's just got this little arrow. What's it going to do to this thing? I will say his head looks a little different. He looks kind of like, his head here kind of looks like one of those Fireys from Labyrinth. You know, the furry guys that can take their heads off and stuff. And I see his forelimbs. I don't see any back limbs. I wonder if he doesn't have any. Maybe this is one back there. Back there. Anyway, I think it's a really cool image. And I really love, the choice to make him be unprepared or he's not ready yet. Shows drama. Here's John Howe again with his version of Smog. And I remember seeing this image as a kid and loving it. There's something very weird and fishy about his Smog. burnt the city. He's destroying its infrastructure. He's being spiteful. All these weird spines coming off his back. The shiny smoothness of his scales here. That's what I think I saw as very like fishy, almost like an eel, or more accurately like a carp or something like that. Just, yeah, real tight, shiny scales. This big, broad, flat mouth and head. And these little eyes up here. And a big nose. I saw that and I was very taken with it. I'm pretty sure I tried drawing it, a version of it myself, or at least the dragon part of it. Man, so good. No wonder he was working on the movie. Here we are to Michael Haig again, giving away the Arkenstone. How dare you? But then also, it's probably the right thing to do. And I think this is the Elven King, and again, can't tell because we can't see his ears. And the Arkenstone's kept nice and vague, which I think is pretty smart. And then I guess this is the Mithril shirt under here. But I don't know. I like this. I like that it's vague. I like this patterning here, too. It's really pretty. Nice patterning on here. Because you have to invent the symbologies and patterns of cultures when you're doing this, because it's not human ones. But you got to kind of base it off of human ones, because it's all reference point we have. So that was all the Hobbit illustrations in this book. And I think next time we will touch on the Lord of the Rings illustrations in this book.